most of your Walt Disney World vacation.
The top 6 Magic Kingdom attractions with short waits. Hi, I'm Herb Leibacher, and welcome to episode 90 of the World of Walt podcast. Make the most of your Walt Disney World vacation for the week of September 18th, 2016. This is the podcast for Walt Disney World fans, whether you're planning your next trip or just enjoy reliving a little bit of Disney magic. Today, the podcast is sponsored by Ear to Their Travel. If you're planning a trip to any Disney destination, give Phil at Ear to Their Travel a call. Phil is a former Disney cast member, so he really knows how Disney works. He can help you plan all the details of your next vacation at no extra cost to you, while making sure you get the best deal on your trip. You can reach Phil at eartotheirtravel.com. When we think of a Walt Disney World vacation, we often think of waiting in lines, whether it's for meals or attractions or sometimes even for the restrooms. And there are some lines that you can't avoid, but there are many that you can, because there are actually a lot of attractions at Walt Disney World where you don't need to wait in a long line. So today we're going to take a look at the top 6 Magic Kingdom attractions with short waits. To help me explore this topic, I'd like to welcome a fellow annual pass holder, another Orlando resident, and all-around nice guy and Disney fan, Johnny Shortsleeve. Johnny, welcome back.
Oh, it's fun to be back, Herb. Thank you so much for bringing me back. You know, I've listened to your podcast, and you got a really cool lineup of guests, and to have you invite me back is actually a pretty big deal. So thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Well, I always appreciate your spending some time with me. I know you've got a very busy life, and you always have great takes on everything in the world of Disney. So thanks for being with me today.
Oh, cool. Thanks, man. I'm looking forward. This is a fun topic. This is interesting because you don't hear people talking about the short lines. You always hear people moaning, groaning about, oh, my goodness, Frozen Ever After is 17 hours today.
Get in line and we'll put you on tomorrow.
Yeah. Bring a sleeping bag. It's like you're camping out for Rolling Stones tickets.
Yeah, exactly right. And the show is much shorter. So, yeah, it's interesting. I think as we go through the list, it may be surprising to the folks who are listening how many options there are for short waits, even more than 6. So we may have some honorable mentions to tuck in at the end.
Yeah, no, this will be fun. I'm looking forward to this.
Me too. So before we get to the topic for today, which is the short lines, let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum and talk about long lines for a second. The warm-up question is, what's your favorite thing about the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at the Magic Kingdom?
Ooh, that's a good question. This is interesting. So, you know, I think you and I have talked offline about this. Walt Disney World to me is really special because while, you know, you may, if you're not really thinking about the details, you're thinking about, well, it's just a roller coaster ride here and there and a show here and there. No, it's way more than that. It's a very immersive experience. There's a lot of storytelling involved. And, you know, you could argue that the mine train is just another roller coaster, and I would argue against it. You know, the ride technology, that swaying car, which I got on at one time, and the guy in front of me said, "Are you okay with motion?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm on a roller coaster." I didn't say that, but I said, "Yeah, I'm okay with it." I said, "All right, when we get to the parts where it's going to be swinging, we're going to be swaying back and forth, so sway with us." I thought, yeah, I guess you can do that. So we did, and it was pretty fun to do that. Pretty crazy, but fun. But the other thing that I think is really, to me, that kind of separates that experience, a roller coaster, I'm using air quotes, experience with what they've created with that attraction, is that that's an attraction I wish that they would just shut it down for a couple hours and let me just walk through the attraction to see all the little details that they put in there. Mm-hmm. So, you know, with all the, you know, the little projection kind of things, the animatronics, like even like at the very, I don't want to give away the, the big reveal at the end, but there's something at the end of that attraction that I wish the car would just be stuck for a little while, at least, 5 minutes or so, just to really soak in what's going on there at that very end scene, right before you go into the, back into the wheelhouse, or whatever you call it, where you offload. There's just an amazing amount of detail they put in there. And to me, it's funny because you think, wow, these Imagineers poured so much time and effort into creating some of these little scenes on the attraction that you only see for like a split second. and literally in many cases just a split second as you're going by. But they put it there for that very reason of they want you to feel like you're on a mine train with the seven dwarves in the film. Yeah. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, me too. And you're right. Some of it goes by so quickly that you just can't catch it all in any one given ride on the attraction. So I agree. And I don't think you're giving anything away at the end. In the world of YouTube, there are no more secrets when it comes to Walt Disney World. So everybody knows everything.
Good point. So. Yeah, think about that. Because if that's true, because in that case, I've ridden Frozen Ever After 3 times, but never in real life. I've just seen it on YouTube, which I know is not good. I should actually invest the 17 hours to stand in line and ride it.
Yeah, you probably just don't want to dust off your sleeping bag, though. That's the problem.
Not for that, no.
It's probably the obvious answer, but I really like going into the mine itself with all the glowing diamonds. And yeah. I actually had the same feeling you do, that it just seems to go by a little bit too quickly. Could you slow this part down, or could the ride break down here for a second so I can get a good picture? That is one of my favorite things. I just think it's sort of awe-inspiring when you go into that dark cave and you see the glowing mines and the dwarfs are at work. I can imagine the amount of time and planning and care that went into building those scenes, and they slip by quickly, but they're amazing that you get to see them for the short time that you do.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of like, like the Haunted Mansion, let's say, is a great example where, I think anyone who's ridden it in the last few years has been on it, unfortunately, where something has to slow down or the ride vehicle stop for some reason. Maybe it's a guest needs to unload, whatever, or it maybe just breaks down, whatever. I like that. I never complain when I'm on the Haunted Mansion and the Doom buggies stop, because it gives me a chance to really soak in and enjoy what's going on around you and all the detail that they put into the attraction. That you just can't do that on a roller coaster because the thing's zipping around. Yeah,
me too. I think a lot of people are like, oh no, the attraction's down, we're stuck here for 3 minutes. But for me, I love those moments because you have a chance to actually take in, without being in motion, what's all around you. And there's always, wherever you are, a lot to take in. But there are some spots that are better to take in. So yeah, when next time you hear the announcement that you've been delayed by whatever that the name is, they say a crazy ghost or whatever, smile, it can be a good thing.
Well, I'll tell you, my favorite, this is terrible, but my favorite spot to get broken down in the Haunted Mansion, and I know we're not talking about that today, but is as soon as you exit out the attic scene and they turn you backwards and then they start dropping you down the hill. Yeah. That's the spot to get stuck. It's nice and quiet. It's dark. It's cool. You can take a little power nap right there because you're reclined. That's the spot to break down. But although I do love like the dining room scene, like stop there and look and see what's going on in there. But yeah, they call it the nap decline right there.
This could be a future podcast, the top 6 spots to break down on Disney attractions.
Down, yeah, exactly. That's funny.
I like that. I'm writing that down as we speak.
Next time.
Yep.
Next time. Yeah.
Deal.
What are you doing after this one?
I'm going to start putting my list together, actually.
There you go.
Okay, the topic for today, top 6 Magic Kingdom attractions with short waits. And number 1, Johnny, over to you.
So, I think the first one in my list has to be the Tomorrowland Transit Authority People Mover. I know the name has been changing here and there throughout the years. I sometimes get a little, I don't want to say upset, but I don't like it when I hear people say that's the best place to take a nap. And I know I'm just joking about taking a nap in the Haunted Mansion when it breaks down. But because I think there's a lot of cool things about this attraction to me. And, it in the peak times, you can maybe wait 5 minutes or so to get on there. But it's nice because it does roll pretty quickly to go through there. I like the vantage point that you get to see the park when you're zipping around on the track, because I'm one of these crazy fools who, when I go through the parks, luckily I'm looking at it through a lens that might be a little different than most people in that I live right down the street like you, Herb. So we have the very amazing luxury of being able to go whenever we want. And I look down and I see the families that are walking around, and I think, wow, I'm right now zipping past a family down there who is probably on like this vacation of a lifetime. They're going to be taking pictures of this moment. This point in time is going to be just this golden memory for them. And I'm seeing it from this little vantage point. Almost like, I don't know, we can go crazy and say that's like how Walt sees it from heaven kind of thing. And so that to me is really cool to just kind of remove myself from the park for a minute and just to kind of enjoy this thing that Walt and the rest of the team built. And even today with the cast members, this amazing experience that they're creating for everybody, and you're seeing it from that vantage point, to me is really cool. And there's the obvious things too. Like there's the model of Epcot, one of the original models that you can kind of see, and obviously it looks quite different than the Epcot we know today. Going through Space Mountain is terrifying for my kids sometimes when it goes pitch black in there on the People Mover. But what I do is I take my phone and just turn it on. And I don't turn it on so it like lights up Space Mountain I just turn it on and face it toward my feet so that there's a little bit of light in the car, but not disturbing to the rest of the guests around us, so they can at least see some light and know what's going on. Everything's cool. Now, which speaking of, I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure you have, but going through there, and there's the rare occasion of going on the People Mover when you go through Space Mountain and the lights are on in Space Mountain.
Oh, yeah.
And you see that and you go, that terrifying tangle of track, that's what I'm riding on in the dark? Like, how did my head not get chopped off on any of these things?
It makes you happy that it's dark in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a super tall guy. I'm about 6 feet, but I think, I don't know how I'm not hitting the track with my head.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I think is cool about it is, depending on the time that you go, you get some amazing views down like around the hub of the castle. Again, it's just for a quick second when you're zipping around, but you could be going there like sunset. It's beautiful to see the hub and the castle from sunset, from a sunset view there, or like during the parades or even the fireworks. It's kind of cool to see it from that vantage point. And again, even though it's for a split second, but it's neat to have that. So I'm not exaggerating. I'm going to say 97.3% of the time that I go to the Met, I go on the Tomorrowland Transit Authority People Mover. It's my go-to spot. So had to be top of my list.
Wow, a lot of great points. And actually, I think it belongs on the top of the list. So probably my number one heuristic, I like that word, my general rule for whether or not the Magic Kingdom is busy or not is if there is any wait at all for the People Mover, the Magic Kingdom is super busy because almost always you can walk right on. And if you can't walk right on and you have that 5-minute wait, the park is probably packed. So that's my kind of rule that I use. And I love the People Mover for all of the reasons you said, for the trip past the Epcot model, for a chance to peek down into Buzz Lightyear, for the opportunity every once in a while to be able to see Space Mountain with the lights on. And I've seen and experienced this, but never really thought it and put it into words like you did, that you do get a chance to sort of peek down into what's happening in Tomorrowland, and not just the scenes, but all the people who are having those special moments together and capturing their photograph that they're going to remember their trip by. And just sort of looking down on what's going on is another angle of how this is a fun and a peaceful trip and tour through Tomorrowland.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point. You think about even just walking around the parks. Think about any given time you walk around the parks, how many pictures are you in that you don't realize you're in? And it made me think about, what's my resting face? Like, is it a happy face? Is it neutral, or is it angry? And I thought, I need to really think about that, because it might be in the background of some picture that's going to be hung on someone's wall, and here I am. Maybe it's like I'm thinking about something, and my thinking face is, I need to be happier just in case. I don't want to, inadvertently photobomb somebody with a mean face on.
That's a good point. Yeah, is there smoke coming out of his ears? What's going on there?
Yeah, boy, he's bummed out about something. Photoshop this guy out before we hang it up on the wall.
I was just going to say that, my resting face is a good reason to have Photoshop in this world. So, Okay, good. Number one, people mover. Number two, back over to me. So I'm going to go just a stone's throw away from the people mover to Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress. There is rarely ever a wait for that. So each scene in the Carousel of Progress is exactly 4 minutes, which I think is amazing. The fact that that everything is so timed perfectly there, but that means that your wait on average is probably going to be about 2 minutes before you have your opportunity to load into the Carousel of Progress, because every 4 minutes they need to get people on and off and rotate over to the next scene. So in addition to all the reasons why I love the Carousel of Progress for its place in history at the 64 and 65 World's Fair, its message of progress, your chance to see a family sort of changing over the years. Another great reason to love the Carousel of Progress is you just don't have to wait. It's about 2 minutes and you're on. That's a great thing.
That's a good choice. And I know you and I are both huge fans of that attraction. And I know this question I'm going to ask you is not going to keep this particular podcast episode very evergreen. So here we are in 2016. What do you think of the new paint scheme that they've done on it?
Interesting. So I actually went and looked at that in detail not long ago. So for folks who are listening, the Carousel of Progress recently got a new paint job. So before there were a lot of, I would say, pastel, lighter colors, things that looked like gears painted on the side. And now it's very bright, very vibrant with big letters that say Carousel of Progress. And I like it, actually. I think it fits in with the changes that are happening in Tomorrowland. So if I think back to the 70s edition of Tomorrowland, where everything was sort of pale blue and white and sort of an austere view of the future, now we've got the retro future, and there's a lot more color, a lot more pop to it. And I think the new paint scheme on the Carousel of Progress with these bright colors and geometric shapes and angles and lines, it's really eye-catching. It's different, so I've got to admit that it was a little jarring because it was not at all what I was used to seeing. But after I had a chance to check it out, I liked it.
So you had the exact same reaction I did. I thought it does catch the eye a lot more, because I remember when the construction tarps were up, thinking, oh, I wonder what they're doing. Hopefully they're not doing anything major. And then it was just basically, from what I can tell, just the paint. But I like it because it does catch the eye more. And so if you're kind of trotting around in that area and you didn't really know everything that was around, that now that you see this thing not only spinning, but you see this paint, like, whoa, what? Oh, let me check that out. What is this Carousel of Progress thing? So I'm hoping, at least, and I'm telling myself, here this is summertime here, so it's still kind of busy. When I've been over the last couple times and been on the attraction, it's been pretty crowded and more crowded than usual. So I'm wondering, I wonder if the paint scheme is to thank for this. And more people are kind of into it and curious to see what's going on here. So that's hopefully that was what they intended. And if so, it seems like it's working.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I guess it definitely is going to catch your eye. And if that brings more people in and keeps the Carousel of Progress with us a little bit longer, that makes my heart happy.
Amen, brother.
All right, number 2, Carousel of Progress. 4 minutes per scene, low wait time. Number 3, Johnny, back over to you.
Okay, we've been talking a lot so far about things that have a really close connection to Walt Disney. So my next one's going to keep on that theme. It's Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. And it definitely fits into the framework of attractions that have a small or very short wait time, because the show does rotate pretty quickly. I wish it was a little more crowded, because I think there's a lot of cool stuff about this. And I'm like you, Herb, somebody who's kind of very sentimental, likes the connection to where things began, and especially with Walt. And this definitely fits that theme. One of the things, though, that I really like about it is probably something that I'm guessing not many people have said before. And so go ahead, brace yourself for this one. Tighten your chin strap and buckle your safety belt. I like how when you walk in, there's this immediate smell of the Tiki Room that reminds me, it may be the exact smell or pretty darn close to the old smell of the Polynesian village, the Great Ceremonial House, as soon as you walked in. The very floral kind of aroma. But it's crazy because you get it just as you walk in, and then it's a fleeting aroma that you get. And I know that at least I've heard and kind of been confirmed by a bunch of different people, that a lot of places around on property do pump in scents, like, especially like the resort hotels. They each have their own little signature scent for the most part. Not all of them, maybe, but I don't know if the one at the Polynesian back in the day was premeditated, like that was a pumped in scent, or if that was just the all the flowers and tropical kind of flora that was around. And if that's what's happening here, I think a lot of that is kind of plastic in the tiki room, but it looks real. And so when I walk in there, to me it's like this nostalgic, because that scent is burned in my brain, because I remember as a kid going there and what that smell, as soon as you walk through the gates or into the doors of the great ceremonial house of the Polynesian, I knew what that smell was, and to me it was really good. And so then there's that. There's the catchy tunes. I mean, those tunes will stick into your head, and that's not the worst thing in the world. I know some people kind of gripe about that, but I like the music in the tiki room. The other thing I think is interesting is, especially now that I have kids, when I take my kids to that, it's like a real life 3D thing. Everything now is 3D TVs and all this kind of stuff, and 3D in the movie theaters. Throw the glasses on and whatever. Now, there's stuff literally going on all around you in 360 degrees, and so you can be sitting. If you're sitting kind of close to the center, you can basically find yourself your neck snapping around to see what just happened. There's something going on in that corner, and then something happened over in this other side over here. It to me is really kind of cool to really be put in the middle of the show, as opposed to just sitting kind of idly by and throwing some 3D glasses on, to have kind of this altered reality made in front of you. No disrespect to that, but to me that's really cool, and I think that's neat for them, because it kind of captures their attention. Like, oh wow, what's going on here? So there's a lot going on there, even though people kind of discount it as being this kind of cool experience. But I think to me it's really cool. I love it.
Yeah, I think the Tiki Room is a great attraction. It's one that's easy to overlook, even though there's a huge tower sitting right on top of it that points to where it is. It is easy to still walk by it. And the smell you catch at the resorts, by the way, I think is the smell of money. But anyway.
No wonder I love it. Well, and too, I think the thing is kind of unfortunate in terms of a placement of the Tiki Room is, it's right next to the Dole Whip depository or repository, and everyone, especially in the hot days, like they're making that beeline to get their Dole Whip, and they walk right past the entrance to the Tiki Room, and it kind of bums me out.
Yeah, that's true. And you make a good point about how the Tiki Room is sort of a different viewing experience. So many of the things that we see at Walt Disney World, you're kind of pointed straight ahead, and what you're supposed to see is right in front of your nose. And that's good. And there are a lot of amazing shows and attractions and storytelling that happens that way. The Tiki Room's very different in that it does really unfold all around you, and you can be looking up and down and left and right, and it's everywhere. It's sort of, just like you said, it was sort of 360 before there was such a thing as 360, and that's a neat thing about the Tiki Room.
Yeah, that's a fun one. I like that show. So hopefully it becomes something that kind of like the Carousel of Progress. Maybe they need to paint it a little bit more, some more eyes. Put a flashy paint job on that tower. Get more people to keep an eye on when they're walking through Adventureland.
I don't know how you paint the grass roof part of it. I mean, you have to pull off each one of those little sticks one at a time and paint them something. So, or
they could do like they did with the Cinderella's Castle in '96 when they did the overlay of the birthday cake.
Yes, we know how well that went. So,
I'm one of the crazy fools that didn't mind that. I was there in '96 when they did that, and I said, "Oh, that's kind of cool, interesting. It's not permanent, right?"
There was a shortage of Pepto-Bismol at the time, and now we know why. So, okay, Tiki Room, good one. Number 4. I'm going to go just down the road from the Tiki Room to Frontierland, and I think another attraction that's often overlooked but has a short wait, and it's the Country Bear Jamboree. So the Country Bear Jamboree these days is about 15 minutes. It got chopped down a little bit, but some of my favorite parts are still in there. Buford, I'm looking out for you. So Country Bear Jamboree, it's a fun show. It's lighthearted, even if you don't like country music. If you like corny jokes, or you like animatronics, or you just enjoy music generally, it's something fun to see. Also, the place where you wait in the pre-show area before you go in to see the actual show, even if you get there maybe 10 minutes before the next show, is often empty for a while. There are some benches along the side, so it's a nice place to take a load off and get a great show and not have to wait a long time to do it.
Yeah, and I frequent that one a lot as well, and I think a lot of it is because I don't like to wait in lines as much as I used to, and that definitely is a great one for your list. What's interesting to me in my little trick, and gosh, I hope I don't just blow it now and I'll never be able to do this again. I like to go all the way down on one of the rows that's right next to one of the exit doors, not because I want to make a fast getaway, but because you can catch the waft of Pecos Bill. If you're sitting right next to the door, because that's where the exit leads you right into where Pecos Bill's is. You have to kind of go around, but it's right there. So it's kind of neat to sit there and say, especially right before lunch, get yourself hungry. That's a good time right there.
The smell of the toppings bar invades the Country Bear Jamboree.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Yeah. Good stuff.
There's another podcast in there where 1 cent invades another space or something like that. I don't know. I'll have to kind of work on that one.
Well, that would do good. And you can also do one with music, too, because you know how when you walk from land to land, especially in the Magic Kingdom, when you walk from land to land, you hear there's that transition of music where you might go from Main Street to Adventureland, when it goes from ragtime to jungle drums or whatever you want to call it. Pretty cool stuff how they do it.
Yeah, it definitely is. Okay, number 4, Country Bear Jamboree. Number 5, Johnny, back to you.
So still going on the Walt Disney throwback, kind of giving a nod to Walt Disney. The next one I have to throw out there is the Walt Disney World Railroad. In terms of lines, it still is pretty good in terms, even on a busy day, you don't have to wait that long to get on the train. It's not 20, 30 minutes. It might be more like 10 minutes, and still that's not bad. And I use the gauge as whether or not my kids can endure that line, and they're fine with it because there's little things you can do right there at the station, especially on Main Street. There's little games that I'm not sure they work, but I don't tell my kids that. They use their imagination and they have fun, so it's cool by me. I like it. There's the throwback to Walt. Walt was such. I'm talking to the guy who created World of Walt. You know this, but a locomotive enthusiast in many respects, and it was something that he enjoyed in his personal time and in his property and in his personal home, as well as Disneyland. And this was obviously something that had to carry over when they built the Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World. To me, one of the things that kind of blows me away is the trains themselves. These things are one of them is about 100 years old, I know, and it looks like it's brand new, basically. I think the Roy O. Disney one is the oldest, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. I'm not that good at my Disney trivia. And then there's I think there's 3 in service right now, if I'm not mistaken. But even the younger ones are only maybe 90 years old. So, they've restored them from, I think they found them in Mexico, if I remember, and they restored them. They keep them up super, super well. But that aside, it's a fun experience to just sit there. It's nice and relaxing to hear the clack, 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 clack of the train as you're going over the tracks. And, you're cruising around the Magic Kingdom. You're seeing a lot of vantage points of the different lands that you don't see when you're just walking on the surface. So to me, that's a nice little relaxing adventure to go around on the train. And it's when I look at my kids, if you're somebody who has young kids, Walt Disney World's an amazing place. I'm one of those goofballs that advocates bringing kids as young as possible to the parks. And, I'm not saying 6 or 7. I'm saying all my kids have been there as babies. there's a lot of things going on, a lot of sensory experiences to see and just to experience, to smell, to hear, touch. This is kind of like the anti that almost in many cases, because it's very, when I watch my kids on the train, they're very relaxed and they're very mellow and they're kind of soaking things in a very different way than they soak things in when they're walking around the parks, because there's so many things coming at them that they're seeing and experiencing. Here it's a little more subdued. And I like that contrast to be able to maybe give them a little break from all of that craziness. I'm not saying craziness in a bad term. I'm saying it's a good thing, all the things that they can experience. But the train is a nice little respite from all of that to kind of take it down a notch for a little bit.
Yeah, it's a great one. There are a lot of things I like about the Walt Disney World Railroad that you've mentioned as well. One of the neat things, I think, is that you get this little peek into a lot of different things around the Magic Kingdom. So you get a peek over at the Contemporary Resort. You get a peek out at the Seven Seas Lagoon. So it's a fun way to see a lot of these spots from a different place. And I also love listening to the narration at the Walt Disney World Railroad. So there's a part where if you're going from the Fantasyland station back towards Main Street, USA, where he says, "Well, thanks for putting up with me for the past couple of days," because in back in the day, you would have been on the train for a few days to get from one spot to another, and so those little touches are a lot of fun. So it's a great, relaxing way to get from one spot to another, or just enjoy a little ride, get some previews of some spots, and on top of it, as you said, you just don't have to wait very long, typically, to get on. The load and unload process is quick. And it's kind of fun to see the train coming towards you, and the conductors are normally waving. So it's a good one that belongs on our list of attractions with short waits.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully it's not overlooked, because I think, there's a lot of cool things to do in the Magic Kingdom, and you kind of blow right past the train station very easily. So hopefully that becomes a must-do list for folks as they're creating their little agendas for their upcoming trips.
Agree. For number 6, I'm going to head over to Liberty Square, and something where you may have to wait 10 minutes or so on average, because the show itself runs pretty long for 23. But it's a great show without a long wait, without a fast pass required, and it is the Hall of Presidents. So I know a lot of people kind of gripe about, this is not a very interesting thing. There aren't a lot of people who watch it anymore. I think it should probably be written into the United States Constitution that in order to maintain your citizenship, you need to see the Hall of Presidents at least once or twice in your lifetime, and maybe even on every trip. It's one of those things that will make you proud again to be an American, that will put you in awe of the people who have held the office of the President of the United States. And like all the things on our list, you just don't have to wait that long to be able to experience it. So Hall of Presidents, I think, is a winner.
There's two things you stole my words. Literally, I was going to say that you feel proud to be an American after you've experienced them. But there's two things interesting that even in the waiting area, as you're preparing, it's beautifully air conditioned. There's a few benches in there, but there's some really cool exhibits that they have in there, some historical artifacts that are really interesting to see. It's like a little miniature version of the Smithsonian almost, and some of the things that they have. But, the other thing, too, excuse me, is that I think it's probably more important than ever to experience something like that, because, we're living in a day and age where, there's so much coming at us in terms of news with politics, and, no matter where you stand, you have some pretty crazy opinions about what's going on with the office of the presidency. But when you see that, that kind of all goes to the side, whether or not you like what's going on or you don't like what's going on. It kind of brings you back to the fundamentals of what's going on and why this is an important thing and why these people are important to our history. And I think it does really kind of recenter you to kind of think about things in a different way in terms of what you hear in the news and all the garbage that's coming out at us from all different sides.
Absolutely. When they talk about the fact that George Washington could have been king of the United States and he stepped down to become a citizen, or how Andrew Jackson made this connection with the citizens, the stories that you hear, I think, just give you a new respect for the long history that our country has had, and how we really can be proud of the fact that, yes, we've got a lot of craziness going on in American politics these days, but the system itself is a great one, and we can be thankful for the folks who put that together way back when, that they tried this crazy experiment that people should govern themselves.
Yeah, and it's powerful too. The storytelling that they use in that show will tug at your emotions a little bit, and it definitely does give me a fresh perspective every time I go sit through it and enjoy the show. So I'm one of those people like you who do advocate. This is not a one and done kind of thing. This is something you should make a point to experience every time you can.
Yeah, I agree. Number 6, Hall of Presidents. Okay, Johnny, do you have any honorable mentions you'd like to sneak in?
I think I think you just opened up a can of worms there. There's so many honorable mentions that I'd want to throw in there. But you know what? Let me say it this way. I don't want to throw a couple out there and do disservice to others. What I would say is that while, there are some amazing attractions in the Magic Kingdom that require long waits. We talked about the Mine Train earlier. They're fantastic experiences. We talked about some amazing attractions that have not so long waits that are still really good and should be on your list of things to do. I'm going to say that I would even say that there are an amazing amount of experiences you can have that aren't even attractions at Walt Disney World. So, like, for example, the outside of Casey's Corner, there's oftentimes, depending on the time of day and the schedule, a ragtime pianist who's out there playing music that's kind of themed to what you'd see on Main Street USA, that time period. Even some of the the parades that kind of go through, not like the 3 o'clock parade or Main Street Electrical Parade, but sometimes depending, you'll be seeing on Main Street the Dapper Dans just coming around. You don't have to wait for them. You just stand there and just watch the show, or the trolley show in the morning. But I'll tell you, the one thing that kind of dovetailing well to the Hall of Presidents conversation is a must-do, in my opinion, that doesn't have a wait, is the flag retreat show every day. I think it's around 5 o'clock is usually when it happens. You want to be proud to be an American. Watch that. And I will say this. I see a lot of people when I just happen to be there at 5 o'clock when they do that, and they have, they'll take a guest who's a veteran or even active service to preside over the ceremony. It's powerful. I've seen it a bunch of times, and I don't want to lose my man card by saying this, but it can bring a tear to your eye to see that, just that experience, and see someone who's served their country to be a part of that. It kind of bums me out though, Herb, when I see that going on, and I see people just walking by and just like not even paying attention, just like, hey, everybody, you're standing still, get out of my way, kind of thing. This kind of very almost disrespectful to do that. And I know I'm gonna probably get you, unfortunately, a lot of hate mail from me saying that, but that's just honestly how I feel. It's something that I think it's worth stopping for 3 or 4 minutes just to watch this, because it is pretty powerful.
I absolutely agree with you. And it's unfortunate that it happens in a time and place where a lot of people miss it. It's one of those things that I do think people should seek out. And it is powerful. That's probably the best word, to see a veteran receive the honor due. It does bring a tear to your eye. And I've heard stories about how veterans have not received that honor in other places, and they get it there. And it's just an amazing thing to be part of, if it's only just for a few minutes. And it does make you proud and appreciate what we have in this country.
Yeah. And I think that kind of, and I probably took that question a different direction than you were hoping that I did. But I think that kind of speaks to the amazing thing that what they've done at Walt Disney World is to say, yeah, we do have a lot of really high-end, cool attractions that you can do. But there's a lot of other things, too, that you don't need to stand in line for an hour to experience that have that experience of something that's going to be memorable, that you're wanting to take pictures of or video of. You don't need to you don't need to stay in line to experience those kinds of things.
Yeah. Great. That's a great one. I would also encourage people to check out the flag retreat ceremony at the Magic Kingdom, 5 o'clock every day. A lot of folks don't happen to be on Main Street USA then, but it is worth a little stroll over there to check it out. You will be glad that you did. And it's something that's so easy to miss because folks just don't happen to be in that spot at that time. But definitely check it out. So, of course, I was going to go Mr. Obvious, who I usually play on TV. So things like the Liberty Square Riverboat or Swiss Family Treehouse. As we've talked through the list, it's amazing how many different attraction experiences you can have and just not have to wait a long time. And I do think, as you mentioned, we often say, oh, my goodness, you got to wait 3 hours to go on the mine train, or it's 90 minutes for Space Mountain. And those are great attractions. Thank goodness for Fast Pass. Many of them are worth waiting in line. But there are so many things where you just don't have to wait in line, and you can still have an incredible attraction experience.
I hope not a lot of Orlando locals are not listening to this, because when I talk to my neighbors and friends down here, it's, I'm not going down the parks this time of year. It's too crazy. Like, yeah, okay, yeah. The locals, yeah, please stay away. Keeps it a little less credit for me.
That's right. If you're not there, People Mover has 0 wait instead of 5 minutes. That's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a really good point.
All right, the top 6 Magic Kingdom attractions with short waits. Number 1, People Mover. 2, Carousel of Progress. 3, the Tiki Room. 4, Country Bear Jamboree. 5, the Walt Disney World Railroad. And 6, the Hall of Presidents. Johnny, good list. I appreciate your going over it with me.
Oh, thanks for letting me do this. This is always fun. I really enjoy the chance to chat about this stuff, and it's always fun talking with you. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. So if people are interested in finding out what you're up to these days, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, if they want to find me, I'm usually cruising through the parks. But no, if you're looking to see what's going on, the latest and greatest, that's JohnnyShortsleeve.com, and you can also find me on Facebook if you just type in Johnny Shortsleeve, and there's a page there where you can see what the latest and greatest is going on. There's some new stuff that's in the works that I'm really excited about, and I always love chatting with people about Disney, and so you can always find me there as well. If I'm on Twitter, there's some cool stuff there. It's John Shortsleeve. I couldn't fit Johnny on Twitter. There's those darn folks at Twitter limiting the amount of characters you can use in your handle. So it's just John Shortsleeve, John.
Those Twitter people are all about limiting you, aren't they? That's just what Twitter is all about.
Yeah, limiting the handle. I don't know. Is it handle? Is that the right word? I feel like talking about CB language, or in limiting the messages. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, Johnny. Well, thanks again for joining me today. It was, as always, a pleasure. I learned a few things along the way, and it was a fun conversation.
Right on. Thanks, Herb. You're doing a great thing. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
He's big around the middle and he's broad across the front. Running 9 miles an hour, taking 30 feet a jump. Ain't never been colder, ain't never been tree. Some folks say he's a lot like me.
Yes, today we head out to the music of the Country Bear Jamboree, and while we have made it through the top 6 Magic Kingdom attractions with short waits, our conversation isn't over. I'd like to hear what you think. You can visit the show notes page at worldofwalt.com/90 and leave your comments. It's a page that works nicely on tablets, smartphones, and desktops. Leave your comments and check out what other people are thinking as well. I'd like to thank everyone who's been in touch with me and invite you to follow me on social media, facebook.com/worldofwalt and pinterest.com/worldofwalt. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I would appreciate it if you would spread the word and tell your family and friends. So to wrap up for today, as always, a heartfelt thank you for spending some of your time with me. I'd also like to thank everyone who visits the worldofwalt.com site and reads out the interesting Disney articles and joins with other folks in the forums and the comments section. By listening here and by visiting the site, you allow me to share the fun of Disney with you, and that is pretty cool. Thank you so much for being a part of it. So, until next time, my friend, may God bless you.
So there's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day. There's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow just a dream away.